This is part two of a two-part series on chemicals and things that are in plants and things that you eat that can actually make your skin burn easier by the sun. And it's not a sunburn, it's actual chemical reaction. So, just real quick for a recap, we're going to talk about when the sun hits your skin, the ultraviolet lights penetrate the epidermis, the outer layer of skin, and then goes into the dermis. That's the layer of skin that's right under the outer layer, the epidermis. And usually, if you have healthy skin cells, this isn't any big deal because your normal skin cells, they have natural antioxidants in them that you need. And they also have very strong membranes because they're supported by saturated fats and cholesterol. And again, saturated fats and cholesterol are extremely healthy, vital to life. It's not the toxins that the food companies and everybody are trying to tell you. Every single cell in your body has a membrane of this fat and this cholesterol. And if you have good saturated fat and good cholesterol, that protects your skin cells. The ingredients that we talked about last episode were called furanocoumarins. These are the things that are in some plants that when you eat these, they get into your skin, whether you eat them or you can actually put them on your skin. Either way, if they come in contact with your skin, these furanocoumarins absorb the UV light from the sun. And when they do that, it forms what's called reactive oxygen species, or ROSs. And these reactive oxygen species are why you need antioxidants, so they can bind those reactive oxygen species so they don't cause all the damage. Because if you don't have antioxidants in your body, these reactive oxygen species, they bind to the DNA and the proteins in your cells. And this causes things like cross-linking, oxidative stress, apoptosis, which is kind of like a programmed cell death. But you don't even need to know that. Just the reactive oxygen species, they cause damage to the skin. And you can tell if it's damaging your skin because you're going to get things like inflammation, blistering, and also like a hyperpigmentation. You're going to get really red, really dark. Now, there's a difference between what we're talking about with these furanocoumarins, and that's called a phytophotodermatitis. Phyto meaning plant, photo from the sun, and then dermatitis means inflammation of the dermis or the skin. So this is inflammation of the skin that's caused by these furanocoumarins when it reacts to the UV light. So phytophotodermatitis differs from an allergic response because usually if you have an allergic reaction to something, the very, very first time you come in contact with that, you don't have a reaction because you come in contact with this allergen, this antigen, your body produces antibodies, and then it stores those antibodies. So the second time you come in contact with it, now your antibodies are all ready to fight it, and then that's when it goes crazy, and you end up getting an allergic response. With phytodermatitis, you don't have to be previously exposed to anything. The very first time you have some of these furanocoumarins on your skin, you can start having these reactions from the sun. And there's different things that depends as far as how severe this gets. It depends on different things like how much of these furanocoumarins do you have in the food that you're eating? What is the intensity of the sunlight? Is it in the middle of the day? Are you close to the equator? And again, I'm talking about this stuff now because people go on vacations all the time. Now, they may go on vacation this summer, but even during the winter, their skin isn't quite as used to the sun. And then they go somewhere like the beach and they get out in the sun and their skin isn't prepared for that. So that's why I'm talking about this now. But so it depends on how much furanocoumarins are in it, how much the intensity of the sunlight, and also just how long you're going to be out in the sun. And the reason this works is because when you eat these furanocoumarins, when you eat the types of plants we talked about in the last episode, when you eat these furanocoumarins can get it into your body. And when you put them on your skin, if these get on your skin, they can actually stay there in your body and on your skin for hours after you've eaten it. And this makes it really hard because if you go out in the sun and you start getting a sunburn, you think that it's a sunburn because you totally don't remember what you ate several hours ago to think that maybe that might have something to do with it. And that's why I want to do this, just to make you more aware of what's going on. These can actually be complicated a lot more because some people, when they have these, they just have a mild redness. But some people, when they come in contact with these, they have really severe burns. So that kind of messes you up too, wondering, okay, what is this? And again, this goes back to a lot of things, the health of the person and also the health of the individual cells as far as what they can eat. So this all depends on your diet, your antioxidant status, and who has the healthier skin that can actually be able to take care of this. So the reason I tell you this, because many people are taught like vegetables are good for you, just a broad spectrum. Vegetables are good for you. And I just want to make sure that you realize that's not necessarily true. And I'm not against fruits and vegetables, but do be aware that vegetables do not want to be eaten. Fruits do, because they need the animal to eat them and spread their seeds. But other plants, vegetables, they do not want to be eaten. So this is like a protective mechanism that they have. So these compounds that they're producing are all kinds of toxins. And it's not just for us, it's to help fight off insects, fight off animals, and even fight off humans because they don't want to be eaten. And some of these substances, some of these are harmless, and we know how to take care of them with different things that we do with our cooking. When we boil things, when we use fermentation, when we bake things, different things can get some of these chemicals out of here. But others, when you eat these plants, they actually interfere with your digestion, with your hormones, with your skin health. They go against what your natural protection is of your body. So some of these surrounding coumarins, as far as being a strong defense system, they're going to have reactions because when you eat these substances or when you handle them, when you just have them, the surrounding coumarins get on the skin. If you do this within a certain amount of time before you go out in the sun, all of a sudden you're going to have issues. And the reason this is an issue, because there's a lot of these wellness trends that are out there. They're telling people to do things like having celery juice cleanses or eating these giant raw salads or having heavy citrus in your nutrition plan. These are the things that when you do that and you're not aware of these furanocoumarins, you're going to think you're doing something healthy for your body, and you won't realize that you're not until you get out in the sun. And that's what I want to actually keep you from doing. I want you to just become aware, because when you're aware, then you can make sure that you keep your skin out of the sunlight for a long period of time and washing your skin really well before you go out in the sun. When you have meat and fat-based diets, you totally avoid a lot of this because you're not eating the plants that have these furanocoumarins. Plus, when you're eating these meat-based, fat-based diets, you're going to get a lot of vitamin E, zinc, saturated fat, and all those work together to make your skin cells very sturdy, very strong. And it keeps them, not only can it protect them from the ultraviolet light, and again, ultraviolet light's good as long as your cells are strong and can handle the amount of ultraviolet light that gets into it. But it makes you tolerate this sunlight better. And it also reinforces our body's own natural defenses. If we can keep that out and we have good antioxidants, then we can take care of that. And all this helps to keep the furanocoumarins, helps the ultraviolet light to actually help us. The main thing with this, when you eat animal-based foods, this is going to give you your fats and your vitamins in highly absorbable forms. When you eat from an animal, your intestines don't have to do as much work because they're already absorbable. So it's very easy to get them in. And you don't have any of these plant compounds because you're eating mainly animal-based foods. So the combination of nutrient density and also the amount of exposure to the sun, this is why carnivore eaters tend to have better skin quality, and they also have better sun tolerance because they strengthen their cells and they decrease the amount of these furanocoumarins that get into them. How do you protect your skin? Because the last time we talked about what these furanocoumarins were and how they worked, how they damage your skin. Now we want to talk about how can you actually protect your skin naturally. And then the first part of this is just understand how the sunlight reacts with the skin and how some things can make that worse. So awareness, be aware of how much time you spend outdoors. Also, be very mindful of things that you ate and things that you've come in contact with, things that could have come in contact with your skin hours before you actually go out into the sun, because all these are going to play a role in how your body responds to these ultraviolet lights. You really need to avoid eating a lot of things like raw celery, like for celery cleanses, or parsnips or citrus before you go out in the sun. If you always wash your hands thoroughly after preparing a meal, you can get rid of this. But a lot of people don't, especially squeezing limes, squeezing lemons, especially if you're out in the sun, you're having some kind of a fruity drink when you do this. People don't realize that keeping that on the skin actually can make things worse. So you have to be very careful of that. So always wash your hands after you prepare the food. Even just a few drops of lime juice on your skin can really cause a painful reaction when it gets exposed to the sun. You also want to strengthen your skin, strengthen your skin cells from the food that you eat. The most effective way to build your body's resilience to these ultraviolet lights and other things is to make sure that when you eat kinds of foods that support cell integrity, that make your cells stronger, keep your cells from getting bombarded by some of these antioxidants. The way you do that is eating things that have animal fats, collagen-rich meats, organ meats, and mineral-rich salts. When you eat all that fat and that collagen, you get the cholesterol and you get all those vitamins and minerals that you get when you have organ meats. That makes your skin cells very strong, and it makes it very resilient against anything like sun. You also need proper hydration, and we've talked about that in several of our podcasts. You've got to stay hydrated. And remember, things like alcohol, sugar, and caffeine, those are actually anti-hydration. Those are actually diuretics. They make you pee more. So if you have anything with sugar, alcohol, or things like that and caffeine in it, you're going to need to make sure that you drink extra water on top of that. So we've talked about how much water everybody should be drinking. It's only half your ideal body weight in pounds is the number of ounces per day. But remember, it's ideal body weight. Take your ideal body weight, divide by 2, and that's the number of ounces of water you should be having per day. If you drink anything with caffeine, sugar, or alcohol in it, you're going to have to increase that amount by that much because it's going to make you pee out. But again, so eating the right kinds of foods and keeping your body hydrated. Also, with good electrolytes, make sure you're not just drinking plain water. You want to make sure you're getting good electrolytes in there as well. And also, as always, quality sleep. You've got to have good sleep. That's when your body actually does its healing. You tear it up during the day, and when you lay down, this is your time for your body and your brain to go through and start clearing all the toxins out of it. And you can actually start healing your body at night. When your skin's nourished by real food, and it's not overloaded by plant toxins, seed oils. We've already talked about how extremely inflammatory these seed oils are. When you don't overload it with plant toxins and you don't overload it with seed oils, then your body just naturally becomes more resistant to the burning. And then over time, you can actually stay out in the sun longer and longer. And that's what we highly recommend, even for as far as sunburns, not even for the phytophotodermatitis, but just for regular sun. Make sure you have good nutrition so you make good, healthy cells and you can stay out in the sun. When the summer starts, be careful. Go out in the sun for just a little bit. Do not let your skin burn. Then come back in, and the sun's going to react with your healthy skin cells and start producing a tan. It's going to activate what's called melanin in your cells. That's what gives your skin cells the tan look, because melanin is a dark pigment that helps protect your skin against the sun. So go out, don't get burned. And the next day you can go out for a little longer and come back in. Eventually you're going to be able to go out and not put on sunscreen. Remember, there are toxic chemicals in sunscreen and you don't need it. We've never, ever had to have sunscreen before. The reason people put sunscreen on, a lot of it is like what we're talking about. They go out in the sun and they have this phytophotodermatitis and they think that they're having issues with the sun, and it's not. And then we have everybody being scared to death of all these cancers, and that comes from when you burn. You don't want to burn. You don't want to stay out in the sun for extended periods of time, and you don't want to have damaged skin cells from all these toxic furanic and these toxic seed oils and other glucose and ultra processed carbs and all the things that actually tear your body up and do not strengthen it. So be careful when you go out in the sun, but just do it a little bit. Don't burn. So why do animal-based foods help? One, because a lot of plants, they have what's called anti-nutrients. And I've talked about this in other podcasts also. Anti-nutrients means that when you eat these plants, they get into the intestines and they actually bind to the nutrients in your intestines. And then you poop those on out. And so you never get them. So some plants actually have anti-nutrients in it. So you have to be careful the types of plants you have if they have anti-nutrients also. We also talked about the inflammatory seed oils. Stay away from those. Stay away from everything in box, bottle, bag, and can. There's nothing good about them, and there's a lot of toxic things about them. And again, these processed carbohydrates. So if you eat meat and animal fat, you're going to strengthen your cell membranes. You're going to balance your hormones. And you're going to be able to reduce the oxidative stress because you're not going to be getting all these reactive oxygen species. You get those when the sun hits your skin. You can also get those when you use glucose as your energy source instead of fat. That produces a lot of these. Anytime you come in with these chemicals, that's in our food. It's in what we drink. It's in our air. It's in things we put on our skin. It's in our grass. We have these toxins all over the place. And so the better nourished your body is, the better nourished your cells are, the better you can withstand a lot of these problems that we tend to have. When you do this, you eat the nutrients. You also support your mitochondrial health because your mitochondria, that's what produces all the energy in your body. It's extremely important. And these toxins that are in plants can actually, they can hurt your mitochondria. They can make it where your mitochondria don't work as well. Where when you eat animal-based foods, it actually, it nourishes the mitochondria. It makes these mitochondria even more likely to be able to process all the sunlight better and still generate energy. So limit the foods that contain these furanocoumarins. That's a big one. And that's an easy byproduct. If you eat animal-based foods, you're not going to be eating the types of foods that have these furanocoumarins. Don't make this hard. It's very easy. If you're putting something in your mouth and you look at your fork and you think, did this come from an animal? If your answer is yes, then you're going to be fine. If you put it there and it doesn't come from an animal, that means it either came from plant-based foods, or by far the worst is chemical-based foods, which is all the man-made food in box, bottle, bag, and can. But I don't even call that food. That's frankenfood. But true food, true God-made food that we eat are plant-based and animal-based. Just be aware, plant-based, plants do not want us eating them. So they have chemicals in there to keep us from eating them. So we have to be careful. We have to know the types of vegetables that you eat. When you eat the right stuff, animal-based foods, it's very easy to eat. And it's also aligned with your own human body's physiology. When you align with our own human body, how our bodies work, how our body's made, the ingredients, because remember, our bodies are made out of protein. Okay, you get a lot of protein out of animal meat, very little out of fruits and vegetables, but you do get some. Vitamins, minerals, you do get some in plants, but you have to eat a lot of them to get the amount you need. To where in meat, the vitamins and minerals are very dense. There's a lot of them. So that's why it's called nutrient dense when you eat that kind of food. You need fat, you need cholesterol, you need protein, you need vitamins, and you need minerals. The fat that you need comes from animals. There are fruit fats that are good that have some omega-3s in them. Okay. And animal fats. Fish, obviously, going to be a lot more omega-3s. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So again, if you're eating meat-based food, you really ought to eat, at least try to get 8 salmon once a week. And that'll help with your omega-3s, especially if you're not eating some of these plants that have the omega-3s in them. But if you do this, if you give your body the nutrients it needs, now you can go out and stay in the sun, just like our ancestors did. Our ancestors were out in the sun all the time before they ever were able to build shelter. They did not have sunscreens. Your great-great-grandparents, they did not have sunscreens. They didn't have all this stuff that you put on your skin. In fact, when I was a child, we did the opposite. We didn't know about any of this. We put cocoa butter and oil all over our bodies when we went out in the sun because we were trying to get more sun. But we were healthier back then, so our skin was able to tolerate it. Now, everybody's skin is intolerant of sun because of all these plant chemicals and all these plant-based foods, and especially all these seed oils and sugar and high fructose corn syrup, multi-processed carbs. All this stuff in man-made food is making our bodies where they are not very resilient anymore. That's why people burn a lot easier now than they used to back when, even when I was a child. And I'm only 63 years old, so it wasn't that long ago. When you eat healthy, you can enjoy the sun. You don't have to have this chemical sunscreens. You don't have to fear the sun at all. And you don't have to be fighting with your body to do what's natural. Because sunlight is so important. And we are just now starting to find out all the wonderful things that sunlight does to our body. The infrared lights, the ultraviolet lights, how they penetrate our skin, how they vitalize our organs, how they make us function. Obviously, our bodies were made to be in the sun. The sun reacts with plants. The sun reacts with animals. The sun reacts with water. Our whole world revolves around the sun being able to work with us, not against us. So don't be afraid of the sun. Just be afraid of the man-made food that you're eating that's causing you to burn. So sunlight is extremely vital to our health. We must have it. It gives our bodies a form of nourishment. But we get confused because some people get out there and they get burned and they have all these severe reactions. They get cancer. But a lot of it is because of the poor dietary habits and the misinformation that we're getting from the food companies and the drug companies. Okay. So it's not about putting more chemicals on your skin to keep you from burning. It's giving your body the nutrients to produce very strong cells that allow you to get out in the sun and stay out for a longer period of time. And not just the sun, but anything that you may come in contact with. There's all kinds of things you get stuck with, plants with thorns and everything that get in your body. The healthier cells are, the better you're going to be able to do that. The more resilient you're going to be. What you want to do, avoid the toxic seed oils, eat the proper foods, and you make sure don't eat the types of foods that have these furanocoumarins. Do not eat lots of those. even hours before you go out in the sun. And if you get them on your skin, wash that off. And I'm not saying to fear vegetables, but just like you shouldn't fear the sun, you shouldn't fear vegetables, and vice versa. Vegetables are fine for us. Sun is vital to us. So don't fear those. Just make sure they eat the type of food and take care of the vegetables to get rid of the toxins as much as you can before you eat those. So as long as you understand that plants have a very powerful chemistry that has allowed them to live since the beginning of time. The way they've lived since the beginning of time is they make toxins to keep animals and insects and other things from eating them and tearing them up. Be aware of that, and then just go take the steps that you need to get rid of those toxins before you ingest them. Or better yet, don't ingest them at all. You don't need them. It's just if you want fruits and vegetables and have them a little bit, you definitely should not be eaten as the main course. And that's what people do. You go out to a restaurant and see people eat, they'll have this little bitty piece of protein, and then they'll have a carb on the side. And then they order a carb before they eat. And our bodies do not want all those carbs. We were never supposed to eat all these carbs. We have been killing ourselves because we're doing this. So what do you need to do? Just make smarter choices. If you're getting ready to go outside, know what you're going to eat before you go outside. And we're talking hours before you go outside. So be careful of what you're eating and how you take care of your skin. Be aware if you're starting to get red when you're out in the sun, get back in. You don't want to burn your skin. And be thinking cognizant of what you just ate. Is it really a sunburn, or is this one of these phytophotodermatitis? So remember, your skin mirrors what's going on the inside. So if you're getting inflammation or everything on the outside of your body, it's a very good possibility you're getting inflammation on the inside of your body as well. Nurture your skin with nutrient-dense foods. You want to cut out all these inflammatory ingredients, especially everything in man-made frankenfood with all these chemical-based foods, and realize that the sun is part of our health. That's what helps us get up and wake up in the morning, is when the sun rises and that sun hits our eyes, then that makes us stimulate our cortisol so we can get up. And the same thing at night, as the sun goes down, it goes from dark to light, or from light to dark. That's when our body secretes melatonin, and that's what helps us sleep at night. So our bodies are in a constant rhythm with the sun, and that's important. And we need to honor that. Don't be afraid of it. When we talk about cutting out all these ingredients and building your strong body, when you build these strong cells, you're going to be a lot more resilient. So don't overlook the link between your diet, your lifestyle, and your body's just natural responses when you get out in the sun. Make sure to eat things that work with your biology, which means eat whole foods, real animals, real vegetables, and real fruits. Limit your fruits and vegetables. There are toxins in them. You can get rid of some of them you can't. And also just eat them very sparingly. You don't need a lot of fruits and vegetables. What you need is animal-based, because that's where you get all your protein, all your fat, all your cholesterol, your vitamins, your minerals, everything that the body's made out of. We are not made out of carbohydrates. We are not made out of glucose. We have tiny amount of glucose in us, but that's only for fight or flight energy, not our constant energy like the food companies that have taught us to do, use glucose for energy. That is not correct. And when you do that, you make a lot of these antioxidants, and you make a lot of these cells that are not very resilient. So what you need to do, eat simply. If you can just eat animal-based foods, a little bit of fruits if you want, a little bit of vegetables if you want, but mainly animal-based foods. You do want the fat. So this is going to rebuild the balance in your cells. It's going to rebuild the balance between you and the sun. And it's going to make you have a natural relationship with your environment, with your plants, with the sun, with everything else. When you eat healthy and you make your body strong and healthy, you can be out in the elements. So stop and think. If you're out and your skin's burning, think, what did I eat earlier and hours earlier before you went out in the sun? And if you were having any of those things that we talked about in the last podcast, then very possible that's just a phytophotodermatitis and not a sunburn. Go and protect your skin. Eat the kind of stuff that makes good, healthy cells, and stay away from the ones that are causing all the skin damage, which is all these furanocoumarins and these man-made foods. So that's what I've got for today. As always, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, stay nourished and stay well.